Hi everybody, welcome to Caketastic Cakes. It's Jen and I'm going to show you today how to make Gabby's Dollhouse cake featuring Gabby or any little kitty you feel like putting on top of it. Now, I am going to start my cake. I have a cake dummy that I'm working with because I do that when I don't have orders. And I am using my fondant here that I dyed a nice sky blue color. I probably should have gone with a teal, but sky blue still works. I rolled out my fondant, laid it over my cake, and in order to smooth down the sides, I kind of pull out on the edge and then press down on the inside of it. And once I got it, like, watch right here, yeah. See how I kind of pick up the outside and then press down on the inside, and then I cut it with my fingernail, so I'll have to fix that later. But you keep smoothing, you keep working, trim off your extra. I'm using my pizza cutter because that's what I had. Smoothing it with my fondant paddle and then moving on. Now I've got some fondant here that is a rose color. I'm going to use it to create a border around the bottom, and I'm trying to make this cake kind of reminiscent of Gabby's actual dollhouse itself when it's closed and she's not necessarily in Dollhouse Land or whatever it's called. Again, sorry, I don't watch the show, so I don't know for sure all the little details. But anyway, I have the nice rose colored ring. I've laid around the bottom. I'm smooth it into place, trim off the extra. No one will ever know. I'm taking some more of the same color. I'm going to make another border now, but this one's going to be flat. And I'm using my cutter there in order to cut an even width strip around it. And that is going to go around the top of my cake. So I put some water onto it in order to make it stick, and then I oh so carefully place it around the top. And this is going to be, again, like her dollhouse, because it has kind of like a ring around the layers, or the levels, I should say, the floors of her dollhouse. And then the top where the roof sits, it's got this, I guess, soffit, maybe, something along those lines. Now, this is the same color rose, and this is gum paste this time, because I want this decoration to solidify and hold its shape. And I also added more of the color. That's why it's darker. So it is the same color as the borders I just put on. I just added more of the food coloring to make it brighter. So I cut it into like a semicircle, as you can see, and I'm going to curve it so it'll fit the cake. And now I have a circle cutter that I just thought was a good size, and I'm making imprints into it along the bottom, and I'm going to kind of fish scale my way up. So I make a stamp across the bottom, and then I start in the middle between the two scales beneath it in order to keep going. And like I said, it kind of creates a fish scale effect, or I guess in this case, a roof tile effect. All right, now I have a picture of the dollhouse that I'd printed out, as you can see. I'm cutting out the windows that go with each floor. I'm just going to cut out one because that's all I need. And I also have one of the windows in the roof that looks like the cat eye. I have one of those too, so I'm going to use them as templates. The first window I'm using is going to be the orange curtained window, and so I trace it out in black first. You see I have it all cut out. I trace it out in black, and then I take my orange, trace that out, so now I've got this shape. Now I'm going to put it on top of my window, and then I'm going to cut away at an angle, kind of like a triangle cut there, in order to cut the size and the proper angle for the curtain. And when it's the right shape, right size, looks good, I'm going to transfer it onto my black background and get it all nice and matched up. And then I'm going to do the same darn thing again. I'm going to take my little template there, trim out my orange, take my orange, put it back on top, trim out the curtains at a nice angle, and then stick it in place. Now that I've got it in place, I'm going to put the little wrinkles in the curtains, or the lines in the curtains. So I do 3 on the bottom, 4 little lines on the top, kind of angled in, following the curve of the curtains themselves. And there you go, lovely drapery. I'm going to take some light orange and put a little skinny band across each one to hold the curtains back, because the kitties like their sunlight coming in. Now I'm going to turn it into a proper window. I have a piece of very light gray going down the center. That's, I guess, the windows open, I guess it would be vertically. And then I'm going to take some of that same light gray, wrap it around the whole darn caboodle there, trim off the extra pieces, and there you've got a window. Now I'm going to take it and stick it right on my cake. I want it nice and centered. There you go. Now I'm going to do another one. Okay, so prepare yourselves. Now I've got the same thing as before. I'm going to take my black gum paste, roll it out, trim it out, Now I'm using purple because the top level of her dollhouse has the purple window with the dots and then the orange curtains. So that's what I'm doing. I trimmed out the purple now, put it on top, cut out my little triangles to make sure it looks like curtains and it all matches up nice and tidy. Stick it onto the black once I get it into place. Then I'm going to do it again. Just trace it, trim it, stick it, cut it. Once it's all done, place it. There you go. I put my little lines in just like before. I added a light purple bands to hold the curtains back. Added the gray trim and the one down the center that I think I forgot to mention. I put a line using my knife blade. I just made a pressure line down the center. I used my marker to add some dots, my food coloring marker, not just any marker. And now put it on the cake. Just try to make sure you got it a nice space apart and you have it nice and level with each other. Okay, this is now some of the light blue gum paste that I've got here. I'm going to make the windows that go in the roof of the dollhouse. So I made 2 circles. Now I'm taking a smaller circle, the next circle in my ring set, make a print in there. So now I'm going to keep my outer rings. I'm taking some light gray gum paste, the same one that I did with the outline of the windows, and I'm going to put it inside my little blue rings, as you see. Now, once I get that all squared away and tucked in as nice and neat as I can, I'm going to take black gum paste, make 2 even smaller circles, slightly smaller, but smaller. Cut the center out, so now I've got 2 crescents that are not a full circle when you put them together, you know. So when I put them on, as you see, it leaves a ring of green or gray, down the center, and a ring of gray around the outside of it. So that's how I made these windows, and you got to try to make them nice and neat too. Try to make them as even as you can. It didn't come out, you know, perfect, but it works. Now I stick them onto my little pink house roof there that I got. I set it up inside this pan on a piece of paper towel so that it can dry and it'll hold its shape. It'll curve to fit the top of the cake. I placed my eyes, as you see, in there. I put 2 little rectangles next to it because they kind of have eyelashes, sort of. I realized I had the angles of the slits going the wrong way, so they should go up and inward toward the center. I had them go in the opposite direction, so I had to fix it. Okay, now I made the little center window that I guess kind of looks like its nose. Just a little piece of black gum paste, a circle. I've circled it in some of the teal color, or the light blue color, and now I'm putting a little cross in the center of it. I put 1 line straight down the center, and rather than just do 1 big line over top of it, I am doing 2 small ones next to it, so that way it just won't stick out too far. Once I have it done, stick it in between those little eye windows, and you've got your little cat face. Okay, now, I know that the roof is not as tall as the one that I've been making. I did this because the Gabby that I made, the Gabby figure that I'm going to show you soon, she's kind of big, and I didn't want her just towering over it. I wanted it to have some kind of a backdrop to it, so I decided to make it taller. You'll see, you know, you can decide. You can see the picture for yourself, obviously, so you can decide if you like it or not. You can make it taller, make it shorter, whatever you want to do. This is just why I did it this way. Okay, now I'm making the ears. I started again with that light gray gum paste. I cut out one of the ears from the picture that I showed you earlier, and I traced it once, flipped it over and traced it again so it's opposite side. I'm taking some of my light blue. I trimmed it out the width of the ear, and then I just freehand made it narrower. So I tried to make it narrower evenly around, so now the gray shows on the outside. Took some black gum paste, as you can see there, just rolled it out. It kind of doesn't matter at this point. Trim off the extra, more of that light gray, and I'm going to trim out the black. So I have a piece that I'm wrapping all around the black, and I'm going to trim off any extra that sticks off beyond the bottom of my ear. And then I'm going to put the one down the center. I put a line down the center of it with my knife, just like I did with the other windows that are down lower, the 2 windows with the curtains that we did earlier. And I make 2 little cross beams on each side, and then call it a window, a cat ear window. Now I'm going to add some water there on my head, I'm going to call it, and I'm going to stick the ear in place. It would fall over if it weren't for that paper towel supporting it, so if you decide to do this, you got to make sure you have support. If you don't have support, it's not going to work. If I didn't have the paper towel and I wasn't giving it time to dry, I probably would have used a piece of dried spaghetti and kind of run it through and then stuck it into the head that way. So you could try that if you want. If you are brave enough to do toothpicks, you can try that too. I personally don't, because I don't like kids, taking bites of things and getting hurt. Okay, now for the last ear, I did the same thing as with the blue, except I'm using purple. I made some lines across it, and then I made some lines up and down to make it kind of brick looking, because it's kind of like a disco ball. So I was trying to make the little squares. Now that I have the squares, I'm going to add some shimmer to it. So I just took my edible shimmer. This color was just white shimmer. I got the purple part wet with a little bit of water from my paintbrush there, and then I just dipped it in the dry powder and just brushed it over it so it was a little thick in spots, a little thinner in spots, but hey, it shimmers and I feel like it works because the disco ball ear, it's not evenly shiny. It's bright in spots, it's duller in spots, so that's what I was looking for. Looking for a little bit of an uneven tone. Stick it on top just like the other ear and give it a little bit of time to dry, and in the meantime we're going to make Gabby. This needs time to set and so will Gabby. Alright, to begin Gabby, I'm going to start with her pants first, her pants and her legs. So I'm taking blue gum paste, rolled it all out to make a big long tube as you saw. I just folded it in half, cut it off even, and now I'm posing her legs. I decided I'm going to go with a crisscross applesauce kind of seating. So I have the base there that I'm running my lollipop stick through. I'm going to put it in my tried and true block of styrofoam. And I'm going to have the one leg tucked under the knee, as you see, and the other one just sitting in front of it. Now to make her body, I'm going to take some white gum paste. I kind of made a tube, like a nice round tube, and then flattened it a little bit. And then I'm going to run it down my lollipop stick so it sits nicely on the pants. Now I'm going to add some cuffs to her pants. I have some of the same blue that I used for the legs of the pants, and I mixed it with some white to just make it a little bit lighter. And it was just literally a ball that I kind of flattened between my fingers and pressed on the ends of the pants. These little white, basically big old bean shapes are going to become her sneakers. I have my two little white bean shapes that I'm putting on there. And I'm going to add the details of them later. I should have done it before I put them on, but I'll show you in a second. But for now, I'm going to add the stripes on her shirt. I rolled up black gum paste, really nice and thin, nice and long, and now I'm going to cut out the strips and the little cat shapes that are in the strips. So what I did was I cut out, see how it is there? I cut out a line up and down, and then I crisscrossed it. I cut an X, kind of connecting the upper corners to the lower edge on the opposite side. So I have it up and down, cross it to the top, cross it to the other top, and voila, kitties. Pretty nice little shortcut, right? And I know her shirt is supposed to have, I think, 4 stripes on it, but I made my stripes a little big because I wanted the cat details to really show. And I honestly thought I'd be able to fit the 4th one on there. I didn't measure because that's not my jam. I like to run a little wild with those things. And so, yeah, I only fit 3 on there. If you measure better, then you'll be able to get 4, then you win. I just put the rest of the stripes on there that I had, and for some reason my battery died, so I'm sorry you don't get to see that. Okay, but moving on, I'm going to show you how I put the details on the sneakers. You take your pink, this is actually a rose color, you cut out that long piece that's real skinny, and then the hump in the center, I like to call it a hat with a really long brim. And then when you put it on the shoe, the toe, the hat part, folds right over the toe, and the brim of your hat wraps around the entire sole. And there you go. You just make a hat. Now I'm going to show you how I made the sweater. Okay, so I have the same rose-colored gum paste as before. I find a nice size that goes around her shoulders but leaves it pretty open, as you saw. I was just measuring it there. And now I'm using that stitching tool, I kind of flashed it at you there for a second, to just make lots and lots and lots and lots of hashes and marks and all over. Do the sides, do the edges, make it really, really, really marked up. It'll help make it look a little bit more like the knitted sweater that she seems to wear. I say seem because I don't really actually watch the show. My kids are too big. So that's just how it looked in the picture to me. Now this is going to become the hood of her sweater. I just make a big fat horseshoe. Just measure it out, make sure it fits nicely. I flattened it a little bit, not too much though. Again, with the same tool, making all those little marks all over it. If you don't have this tool and you can't make the marks, it's no big deal. Nobody's going to like throw your, cake in the trash or anything like that. So once you have it all flattened and roughed up, just use a little bit of water and put it into place around the neck there. Okay, this is just light pink. It's the same color. I just mixed it with some white. I rolled skinny little beans there. Those are the tassels of her sweatshirt. And there you go. Like, it's really coming along cute. All right, these are going to be her arms, or her sleeves, I should say, of her sweater. It's the same pink. Rolled out a nice long tube of it. I cut it at an angle. And then I measured it to the right size, cut them both the same size. And now I'm just roughing it up like I did before with the same tool. Adding some water to the shoulder area and also the leg because I'm going to have her hands kind of resting on her lap. Make sure you add water to the right spot because it turned out I missed a little bit, so I had to add some more. If you mess up your marks, just add some more. Again, no big deal there. Do the same thing with the other side. I just added some more roughage, put some water into place, put it into place. I have it bent at the elbows too. Try to be careful with that. If you do decide to do this pose with her, make sure she has, anatomical elbows and knees and she's not just spaghetti noodle limbs, that are all soft and curvy. They should have angles to them. I'm making her little hands right now. I have some light brown gum paste that I started with kind of an oval shape, as you saw. I cut out the one little triangle to separate the thumb from the majority of the hand, just like that. You can see me doing it again. And make 1, 2, 3 little chops in order to separate her 4 fingers. Cut off the back of the hand if it's a little bit too long where the wrist is. Stick it into place. I'm taking my extra gum paste and just wrapping it around my lollipop stick there at the top. And that's going to be her neck. She has a giant head, as usual, for the show. But she actually has a neck, so good for her. She's one of the few that made it. So I might have to trim it later, which I think I actually did. But for now, she has a neck. All right, now I'm moving on to her head. I'm not going to worry about it being perfectly round because she's got a lot of hair that we're going to add to it that can fill in the back. So for now, I just want to make sure I have a very soft triangular shape. Like, she's got a little bit of a pointed chin, like very gently pointed, so be aware of that. The rest is pretty round. I'm using the paintbrush on the handle of the paintbrush to flatten off the top. You see how I did that? And that's going to be where her eyes are and separated out from her nose and her cheeks. I'm using this same handle there to kind of press down at an angle toward the center. And that's going to help separate, because I'm going to add her eye sockets here with that tool I'm using, the ball tool. And that's going to help separate her eyes and her nose and make her nose come forward a little bit more as well. Now that I've got it kind of separated, you see I pressed down on either side. And now I'm using my fingers to kind of smooth out those marks I made because they were very big. But this is also going to separate out her nose. Her nose kind of sits a little bit below her eyes, not between like all the cats that we've done before, but it is a little bit more below her eyes. So just keep pressing down and smoothing out until you have a nice shape and size that you're happy with. I'm using the back of my paintbrush again to make a couple little nostrils. And now I'm going to move on to the eyes. The sockets that I had there, I just filled in with a couple balls of white gum paste. Be careful not to overfill them because we don't want her to look bug-eyed. Just nice big white round eyes. I'm going to take little balls of black gum paste, put it right into the center. And I should have, I think, made it so that it touched the bottom of her eyes, those the pupils and the iris. But I didn't, so, I got to live with myself on this one. I'm adding her eyelashes, just a couple of pieces of black gum paste rolled real thin, a little bit wider in the center, but tapered at each end, and then trimmed off to the right size so that it wraps around the top half of her eyelids. Now I'm going to make her eyebrows. I'm taking some dark brown gum paste. And again, I did it just like the eyelids. I rolled it real thin on the sides, thicker in the center, and then I kind of flattened it because she's got very stylish eyebrows. I gotta say, her eyebrows are rocking. So I cut it right down the center, so now they're very thick in at the beginning or in the center of her head. And as they go out, they kind of swoop up and down and then curve around her eyes and get thinner. So when you put them together, they will be beautiful. This is her mouth, okay? I took some pink gum paste, just like the eyebrows, just like everything else. Thin on the sides, fat in the center. I use that circle tool that you saw just to make a line. Her top lip is thinner than her bottom lip, so just be aware of that. And it is, she has kind of a wide mouth, so just also be aware of that too. And it sits very close under her nose. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that I added 2 little balls of white gum paste to her eyes there just for the highlights. And I'm adding little touches of brown gum paste to the bottom to make the color of her eyes shine on through. Now when I stuck her head on her neck, I felt like it was too long. I mentioned that earlier. So I'm trimming a little bit away with my X-Acto knife so that she doesn't have a giraffe neck, she has a person neck. See? Not too shabby. Okay. Now I'm going to start adding her hair. I'm going to start with the hair in front of the hairband, first. So I have a rectangle of pretty thick brown, dark brown there. I'm going to cut one little flake off the edge there, one little nip, so that it'll go onto either side of her ear, like that. And I'm going to round off the front in the top there in the center because she has kind of a part that tucks up and in. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now her part is a little bit off center. I realized that, of course, after the fact when I went back to look at my picture that I was working from. So just to be aware, it does sit a little bit more over her left eye. I did the same thing on the other side, as you see, made a couple little pieces coming out. I'm using my straw there to just create some waves in the front. And now I'm using my X-Acto knife to make some lines. And I was trying to make them wavy, but my X-Acto knife is so sharp I was just cutting everything. So it didn't work quite as well as I hoped. Now you can do her hair this way, the way that I'm doing it right now. I think it looks lovely, otherwise I would not have done it. I'm looking back on this and I feel like maybe if I had just rolled out really skinny little pieces and then curled them and made them more wavy myself, like individual strands, just maybe thick strands, but individual, maybe it would have kept more of the curly wavy hair effect that she does have, because I feel like I kind of lost it a little bit. It doesn't look bad, but I just, maybe it could have been better. So something to consider for you guys if you decide to make it. Okay, this is now the white hairband. It's the same thickness as the brown hair that's already on her head. I just tapered it at each end, as you see. And now when I place it on top, it will be the same thickness of her hair. So it's not going to quite disappear, and it's not going to sit on top and be enormous either. I'm going to make the little ears for her headband. So I've got my white gum paste again, cut into a couple of triangles. I soften up the top of the triangle because the ears are very rounded at the top. Like that. I just pat it down, no worries. And now I'm going to fix the one ear so that it has the black top. So I have some black that I am cutting to match, as you can see, the one ear. When it's all rounded at the top, nice and even, going to stack them back up and then cut it at an angle right through both of them. Now I have a perfect match for my ear. And when you add a little bit of pink, a little pink triangle into each one, you've got your kitty cat ears looking perfect. And I think her ears are modeled after Pandy Paws. Again, don't watch the show, forgive me if I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's where she gets it from. Okay, so a little bit of water on her ears. We'll put them right onto the headbands and make sure they sit a little bit apart. And there you go, right? So now we're going to finish her hair. I'm taking a big old piece of brown gum paste. I am just getting sizes here at this point. She's got big hair. She's got a lot of it. Her head is big. Her hair is very long in the back, very wavy. So you're going to have to add a lot of hair to it. It's going to make it heavy. This is going to pull on the neck and pull on the head. So you got to be careful how you do this. Make sure your head is set and dry and your body is set and dry. So when you add this part to it, you're not going to damage it with the weight pulling onto the back of it so she doesn't end up looking up at the sky. I'm using my knife, as you see, to just make some lines in it, make some of those, trying to make some of the waves and curls that she has. Doing it all up and down the back, and then I realized her hair is enormous, so I gave her a little haircut, just like that. And also kind of pressed it into her back a little bit more. And that should be able to make it so that it sits up. You see? She's got her hair. And now we've got to add the final touches here. I'm going to go back and add a little patch to her leg. I'm just taking some pink gum paste, cut it into a little kitty face. I'm going to use a food coloring marker to outline it in black, stick it on her pant leg. And now a little touch of blush on each cheek. And you've got Gabby. Now, getting back to our cake, everything has had time to set. Now I can place my little kitty roof on my cat theme, my dollhouse themed cake. Place Gabby on top. Or you could place her on the side. Again, have the little cake thing on top and maybe throw one of her friends in. And then you'd have the top to put a number or candles or something. But either way, there you go. Gabby's Dollhouse featuring Gabby. So I hope you enjoyed this video. please like and subscribe because it really does help me out. I have a lot of other videos out there as well as how to make Pillow Cat there and the other cats. And as always, thank you for watching Caketastic Cakes.